You're driving home at 11 p.m. You check your mirror. Red and blue lights. Your heart starts pounding. The officer walks up to your window, his hand resting on the doorframe, and then he asks the question that could change everything. Do you know why I pulled you over? What you say in the next 5 seconds determines whether you drive home or spend the night in a holding cell. Here's the trap, and most people walk right into it. Option A, you say, "Yes, I was speeding." Congratulations, you just confessed. That audio is now evidence. Your lawyer can't save you from your own words. Option B, you say, "No, I have no idea." Now you look evasive. The officer writes in his report, "Subject appeared nervous and uncooperative." Both answers hurt you. Both answers are wrong. And this is where most YouTube advice fails you, because they tell you to be polite and cooperate, without explaining what that actually means under the law. But there is a third option, 5 words, backed by over 200 years of constitutional law. And once you understand why these words work, you'll never answer a police question the same way again. I'm a lawyer with over 15 years of experience in criminal and civil procedure. And today I'm going to give you the exact script, word for word, that protects your rights without escalating the situation. Let me paint you a real scenario, because this isn't theoretical. This happened to a client of mine. He's driving home from work. Clean record. Taillight is out. He didn't even know. Officer pulls him over. Standard traffic stop. Officer, license and registration. Do you know why I stopped you? My client, I'm not sure, officer. Officer, have you been drinking tonight? My client, I had 1 beer with dinner about 2 hours ago. That one sentence, I had 1 beer, turned a broken taillight stop into a DUI investigation. Field sobriety test, breathalyzer, handcuffs, all because he volunteered information he was never legally required to give. You don't have to make this mistake. Let's break down exactly what went wrong, because each word he said was legally admissible against him. I'm not sure, officer. Sounds innocent, right? But in a police report, this gets written as, subject was evasive when asked if he knew why he was stopped. The word evasive is a red flag. It suggests consciousness of guilt. 1 beer with dinner. Here's what that sentence actually communicates to the officer. 1. You admit to drinking. 2. 2 hours ago sounds like minimizing. 3. You've now given the officer reasonable suspicion to investigate further. And here's what most people don't understand. Under Terry v. Ohio, once the officer has reasonable suspicion, he can detain you. He can order you out of the car under Pennsylvania v. Mimms. And everything you say from that point forward is building a case against you. Why do smart people give police information that hurts them? It's not stupidity, it's psychology. When an authority figure asks you a direct question, your brain is hardwired to answer. It's a social reflex. We're conditioned from childhood to respond to teachers, bosses, people in uniform. Silence feels rude. It feels suspicious. Police officers are trained to exploit this. They use strategic pauses. They ask open-ended questions. They make small talk. How's your night going? Which feels safe to answer, but builds the same case. The key is understanding. You're not being rude by staying silent. You're exercising a constitutional right that the Founding Fathers considered so important they put it in the Bill of Rights. Twice. Let me ground this in actual law, because I want you to understand why this works, not just what to say. The Fourth Amendment protects you from unreasonable searches and seizures. A traffic stop is a seizure. The Supreme Court confirmed this in Delaware v. Prowse. But here's the nuance. The stop itself is usually legal if the officer had probable cause, like a broken taillight. The Fifth Amendment protects you from self-incrimination. You have the right to remain silent. Not the right to remain silent after you explain yourself. Not the right to remain silent once the handcuffs are on. The right to remain silent. Period. And here's what Terry versus Ohio actually means for a traffic stop. The officer can ask you questions, but you are under no legal obligation to answer them, beyond identifying yourself in states with stop and identify statutes, which I'll cover in a moment. The key legal distinction. Compliance with lawful orders is mandatory. Self-incrimination is optional. Getting out of the car when ordered? You must do that. Explaining where you've been? You never have to do that. Here are the 5 words. Write them down, memorize them. I don't answer questions, officer. That's it. 5 words. Calm, professional, unambiguous. Here's why each word matters. I. You're speaking for yourself, not being combative. Don't. Present tense. This is your policy, right now, not an opinion. Answer questions. Specific. You're not refusing to identify yourself. You're not refusing to provide your license and registration. You are specifically declining to answer investigative questions. This distinction is critical. Officer. Respectful. You're not being difficult. You're being professional. Deliver this with a calm tone. Hands at 10 and 2. Eye contact. No attitude. You're not being defiant, you're being smart. The words matter, but delivery matters just as much. Here's exactly how to handle the physical interaction. Hands, 10 and 2 on the steering wheel, visible at all times. An officer's #1 concern is officer safety. Hands they can see are hands they don't fear. Eye contact, brief, not staring. Look at the officer when you speak, then return to looking forward. Don't avoid eye contact, that reads as deception. Voice, low and slow. A calm voice de-escalates, a shaky or loud voice escalates. Body, still. Don't reach for anything without saying, I'm going to reach for my registration in the glove box now, is that okay? Wait for acknowledgement before you move. Here's the full exchange, so you can hear exactly how it sounds. Officer, do you know why I pulled you over? You. I don't answer questions, officer. Here is my license and registration. Officer, where are you coming from tonight? You. I don't answer questions, officer. Officer, have you had anything to drink? You. I don't answer questions, officer. Same 5 words, every time. Calm, consistent, constitutionally protected. Now I need to give you the full picture, because there are exceptions, and I'm not going to let you walk into them unprepared. Exception 1. Stop and identify states. In 24 states, including Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, and Florida, you are legally required to identify yourself when stopped by police. This means your name, not where you're going, not what you had for dinner, your name. If you're in one of these states and the officer asks, "What is your name?" you provide it. My name is officer. Then you return to, I don't answer questions. Exception 2. License and registration. You must provide these when lawfully stopped. This is a lawful order, not an investigative question. Exception 3. Do you have weapons in the vehicle? This sits in a gray area. In most jurisdictions, you can decline to answer, but in some states with duty to inform laws for concealed carry permit holders, you must disclose. Know your state's specific law. I'll link a resource in the description. What never changes. You never consent to a search. I do not consent to searches, officer. Say it once, loud enough for any recording device to pick up. What if the officer doesn't accept your silence? What if they escalate? First, stay calm. Escalation from the officer is not permission for you to escalate back. Your rights work best when you exercise them calmly. Second, ask one question. Am I free to go, officer? This question is legally significant. If the officer says yes, you leave. Immediately. Politely. Don't wait for permission to be withdrawn. If the officer says no, you are now detained. At this point, repeat, I invoke my right to remain silent, and I want an attorney. Nothing else. Every word you say after this can and will be used against you. Third, document everything. The moment the stop ends, write down badge number, patrol car number, time, location, what was said. This is your contemporaneous record. It carries weight if you need to challenge the stop later. Critical note: if the officer asks you to step out of the vehicle, you must comply. Pennsylvania v. Mimms gives officers this authority during any lawful traffic stop. This is a lawful order. The 5 words approach is for investigative questions, not lawful commands. Look, I've spent 15 years in courtrooms, and I can tell you this with absolute certainty. The cases that are won or lost don't start at trial. They start at the side of the road at 11 p.m. with a simple question. The Constitution gives you a shield, but a shield only works if you know how to hold it. I don't answer questions, officer. 5 words. Memorize them, because the moment you need them, you won't have time to Google them. If this video helped you understand your rights, share it with someone who drives, a friend, a family member, your teenager who just got their license, because knowing this could keep them out of handcuffs. I'm Azam Nurmatov, and if you want to understand the law so it works for you instead of against you, subscribe and turn on notifications. New breakdowns every week. Drive safe, know your rights. I'll see you in the next one.